Almost everything you think you know about dinosaurs may be wrong. The giants in museums are often incomplete. The hunters on screen were changed for drama, and even familiar names can disappear when one bone is studied again. Some dinosaurs wore feathers, some were no larger than birds, and many creatures called dinosaurs were never dinosaurs at all. The strangest truth is that the past did not vanish as cleanly as we were taught. Tonight, we will move slowly through 100 quiet facts and uncover how bones, films, old mistakes, and living birds changed the real story of dinosaurs. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soothing background. And let's embark on this journey together tonight. Most people meet dinosaurs in picture books, cartoons, toys, museum posters, and films. The animals usually appear as enormous creatures with wide mouths and bodies large enough to fill a street. A child can easily grow up believing that every dinosaur was huge, dangerous, and built like a monster. That picture feels natural because it has been repeated for so long. It is also wrong in several important ways. Dinosaurs were not one simple group of giant animals. They came in many sizes, lived across a very long stretch of time, and shared the planet with other ancient reptiles that were not dinosaurs at all. Much of what people think they know comes from images created by artists, filmmakers, and museum workers. Those images are useful, but they are still reconstructions. No living person has seen a non-bird dinosaur walking, eating, resting, or raising its young. Every familiar picture begins with bones, tracks, impressions, and careful guesses. First mistake is size. Some dinosaurs were enormous. Their long necks and heavy bodies have made them famous, yet many other dinosaurs were small. Some were close to the size of a chicken. Others were similar in size to a dog, a turkey, or a large ground bird. A small dinosaur could move through bushes, hide under low plants, and live without making the ground shake. The word dinosaur does not mean giant. It describes a large and varied branch of animals. Within that branch were light runners, small hunters, plant eaters, nest builders, and animals that might have spent much of the day avoiding anything larger than themselves. Museum displays often give the greatest space to the largest skeletons because they attract attention. Small species are easier to overlook, even though they were just as real. The result is a simple misunderstanding. People remember the towering body in the main hall and forget the smaller animal in a glass case near the wall. It is mildly amusing that popular culture managed to turn a group containing chicken-sized animals into a permanent parade of giants. The second mistake concerns time. People often imagine the age of dinosaurs as one crowded period in which every famous species lived together. Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Velociraptor, Brachiosaurus, and T-Rex are placed in the same pictures as if they shared the same rivers and watched the same sunsets. In reality, the dinosaur era lasted for more than 160 million years. Species appeared, changed, spread, and disappeared while other famous dinosaurs had not yet evolved. Stegosaurus lived during the late Jurassic period. T-Rex lived much later, near the end of the Cretaceous period. More time separated Stegosaurus from T-Rex than separates T-Rex from people living today. This fact feels strange because books and films compress the whole era into one scene. It is convenient to place every well-known animal together. It is not accurate. A T-Rex could never have hunted a Stegosaurus. They belonged to different worlds, with different landscapes and animal communities. Humans are also completely absent from the world of non-bird dinosaurs. No person watched a T-Rex walk through a forest. No early human hid from a velociraptor. No village ever stood beside a herd of triceratops. The last non-bird dinosaurs disappeared about 66 million years before modern people existed. Any picture that places humans beside them belongs to fantasy. Popular images still mix distant periods without concern. Cavemen, mammoths, giant reptiles and volcanoes may appear together because they all feel ancient. True history is less crowded and much longer. Human beings arrived extremely late. We know dinosaurs through what remained after their bodies were buried, broken, scattered, pressed into rock, or preserved as marks in sediment. Gives evidence, not a finished portrait. This leads to another common mistake. Many flying reptiles are called dinosaurs in ordinary conversation. Pteranodon is one of the best-known examples. It had long wings and a large head crest. It lived during the age of dinosaurs and shared the planet with them. However, it was not a dinosaur. It belonged to a separate group called pterosaurs. Pterosaurs were flying reptiles with their own long history and many different forms. They ranged greatly in size. Their wings were supported mainly by an extended finger, which makes their body plan different from birds and bats. Films often place a flying pterosaur above a dinosaur herd, then treat every animal in the scene as a dinosaur. This is easy for an audience to accept, because all of them are ancient reptiles. Scientific classification is more careful. Living at the same time does not make two animals members of the same group. It would be like calling every animal in a modern zoo a type of horse simply because they all live behind nearby fences. The same confusion happens with ancient marine reptiles. Mosasaurus, Plesiosaurus, and Ichthyosaurus are often placed under the general label of dinosaur. They were not dinosaurs. They lived in oceans and belonged to different reptile groups. Mosasaurus had a long body, powerful jaws, and limbs changed into paddles. Plesiosaurus had a broad body, 4 flippers, and in many species a very long neck. Ichthyosaurus had a body that could look surprisingly similar to a fish or dolphin, though it was a reptile. These animals shared the wider prehistoric world with dinosaurs, but they did not walk as members of the dinosaur group. True dinosaurs were mainly land animals, even though some lived near water and some could swim when necessary. The oceans held their own large reptiles. Skies held pterosaurs. The land held dinosaurs and many other animals. Popular culture often mixes all of them because the combined scene is dramatic and easy to sell. As a result, the ordinary meaning of dinosaur has become much wider than the scientific meaning. In films, toys, and posters, it can mean almost any large creature from deep time. Flying reptile can be called a dinosaur. A marine reptile can be called a dinosaur. A creature invented for a film can be treated as a dinosaur if it has scales, teeth, and a frightening face. This creates a mixed collection that never existed as a single natural group. Real dinosaurs become mixed with pterosaurs, marine reptiles, oversized lizards, and invented monsters. The mistake is understandable because the animals are unfamiliar and only known through reconstruction. Still, the mixture changes how people imagine the past. It makes ancient life seem like one collection of monsters instead of separate ecosystems spread across millions of years. Museums can also create a false sense of certainty. A large skeleton standing in a hall looks complete and final. Visitors see the bones arranged in a clear pose. It is easy to assume that every bone came from one animal and that every piece is original. Often that is not the case. Many mounted skeletons include casts made from real fossils. Some combine original bones with replicas. Some use missing pieces modeled from better fossils of the same species. Others may include bones from several individuals because no single complete skeleton was found. This does not mean the display is dishonest. Fossils can be too fragile, heavy, rare, or valuable to place in an exposed mount. A cast can protect the original and allow people to study the animal at full size. Problem begins when visitors do not realize how much reconstruction was required. A fossil skeleton is rarely complete. A body can be scattered by water, crushed by sediment, eaten by scavengers, damaged by roots, or broken during millions of years underground. Paleontologists may find only part of a skull, several vertebrae, one limb, and pieces of the pelvis. From those remains, they must compare related species and estimate what is missing. A missing bone may seem like a small problem, but it can affect the entire pose. The angle of the hips can change the way the legs appear to stand. Position of the neck can make the animal look upright or horizontal. The length of the tail can affect balance. Feet may be arranged incorrectly if joints are poorly understood. Early reconstructions sometimes placed bones in the wrong position because there were few complete examples available. Find it easy to forget how much patient guessing stands behind a skeleton that looks perfectly certain under museum lights. Old dinosaur pictures reveal how strongly each period added its own ideas. Early artists often made dinosaurs look like heavy lizards. Their bodies rested low, their legs spread outward, and their tails dragged across the ground. Some were painted as slow animals living in swamps because people believed their weight would be difficult to support on land. Later evidence changed that view. Tracks, joints, muscle studies, and better skeletons suggested more active postures for many species. Legs were placed more directly beneath the body. Tails were raised for balance. Necks and backs became more horizontal in many reconstructions. The animals began to look less like oversized reptiles from an old garden and more like living creatures adapted to movement. Earlier scientists were not foolish at that time. They worked with the fossils available to them. A single new skeleton can correct an old arrangement. A new trackway can change an estimate of walking style. A closer study of joints can reveal that a limb could not move in the way an old painting suggested. Science improves by correcting its own work. The images change because the evidence changes. This also means that a modern reconstruction should not be treated as a perfect window. It may be more accurate than an older one, but it still contains choices about muscles, fat, skin color, posture, and behavior. Some choices are strongly supported. Others remain uncertain. The first deception is therefore not a planned lie. It comes from the way incomplete evidence becomes a complete picture in the human mind. We see a mounted skeleton and imagine a living body. We see a painted scene and imagine a real afternoon in the Cretaceous period. We hear the word dinosaur and picture a giant predator, even though many dinosaurs were small and harmless to anything larger than themselves. We place animals together that lived tens of millions of years apart. We add pterosaurs and marine reptiles because they fit the general mood. Then we forget that the entire scene was assembled by people who never saw it happen. The familiar dinosaur world is built from real evidence, but it is also filled with gaps, estimates, and old habits. The harder question begins when the bones are correct, because bones still leave out most of the living body. A skull may look complete, yet the face placed over it can still be very wrong. Most people meet dinosaurs in picture books, cartoons, toys, museum posters, and films. The animals usually appear as enormous creatures with wide mouths and bodies large enough to fill a street. A child can easily grow up believing that every dinosaur was huge, dangerous, and built like a monster. That picture feels natural because it has been repeated for so long. It is also wrong in several important ways. Dinosaurs were not one simple group of giant animals. They came in many sizes, lived across a very long stretch of time, and shared the planet with other ancient reptiles that were not dinosaurs at all. Much of what people think they know comes from images created by artists, filmmakers, and museum workers. Those images are useful, but they are still reconstructions. No living person has seen a non-bird dinosaur walking, eating, resting, or raising its young. Every familiar picture begins with bones, tracks, impressions, and careful guesses. First mistake is size. Some dinosaurs were enormous. Their long necks and heavy bodies have made them famous, yet many other dinosaurs were small. Some were close to the size of a chicken. Others were similar in size to a dog, a turkey, or a large ground bird. A small dinosaur could move through bushes, hide under low plants, and live without making the ground shake. The word dinosaur does not mean giant. It describes a large and varied branch of animals. Within that branch were light runners, small hunters, plant eaters, nest builders, and animals that might have spent much of the day avoiding anything larger than themselves. Museum displays often give the greatest space to the largest skeletons because they attract attention. Small species are easier to overlook, even though they were just as real. The result is a simple misunderstanding. People remember the towering body in the main hall and forget the smaller animal in a glass case near the wall. It is mildly amusing that popular culture managed to turn a group containing chicken-sized animals into a permanent parade of giants. The second mistake concerns time. People often imagine the age of dinosaurs as one crowded period in which every famous species lived together. Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Velociraptor, Brachiosaurus, and T-Rex are placed in the same pictures as if they shared the same rivers and watched the same sunsets. In reality, the dinosaur era lasted for more than 160 million years. Species appeared, changed, spread, and disappeared while other famous dinosaurs had not yet evolved. Stegosaurus lived during the late Jurassic period. T-Rex lived much later, near the end of the Cretaceous period. More time separated Stegosaurus from T-Rex than separates T-Rex from people living today. This fact feels strange because books and films compress the whole era into one scene. It is convenient to place every well-known animal together. It is not accurate. A T-Rex could never have hunted a Stegosaurus. They belonged to different worlds, with different landscapes and animal communities. Humans are also completely absent from the world of non-bird dinosaurs. No person watched a T-Rex walk through a forest. No early human hid from a velociraptor. No village ever stood beside a herd of triceratops. The last non-bird dinosaurs disappeared about 66 million years before modern people existed. Any picture that places humans beside them belongs to fantasy. Popular images still mix distant periods without concern. Cavemen, mammoths, giant reptiles, and volcanoes may appear together because they all feel ancient. True history is less crowded and much longer. Human beings arrived extremely late. We know dinosaurs through what remained after their bodies were buried, broken, scattered, pressed into rock, or preserved as marks in sediment. Gives evidence, not a finished portrait. This leads to another common mistake. Many flying reptiles are called dinosaurs in ordinary conversation. Pteranodon is one of the best-known examples. It had long wings and a large head crest. It lived during the age of dinosaurs and shared the planet with them. However, it was not a dinosaur. It belonged to a separate group called pterosaurs. Pterosaurs were flying reptiles with their own long history and many different forms. They ranged greatly in size. Their wings were supported mainly by an extended finger, which makes their body plan different from birds and bats. Films often place a flying pterosaur above a dinosaur herd, then treat every animal in the scene as a dinosaur. This is easy for an audience to accept, because all of them are ancient reptiles. Scientific classification is more careful. Living at the same time does not make two animals members of the same group. It would be like calling every animal in a modern zoo a type of horse simply because they all live behind nearby fences. The same confusion happens with ancient marine reptiles. Mosasaurus, Plesiosaurus, and Ichthyosaurus are often placed under the general label of dinosaur. They were not dinosaurs. They lived in oceans and belonged to different reptile groups. Mosasaurus had a long body, powerful jaws, and limbs changed into paddles. Plesiosaurus had a broad body, 4 flippers, and in many species, a very long neck. Ichthyosaurus had a body that could look surprisingly similar to a fish or dolphin, though it was a reptile. These animals shared the wider prehistoric world with dinosaurs, but they did not walk as members of the dinosaur group. True dinosaurs were mainly land animals, even though some lived near water and some could swim when necessary. The oceans held their own large reptiles. Skies held pterosaurs. The land held dinosaurs and many other animals. Popular culture often mixes all of them because the combined scene is dramatic and easy to sell. As a result, the ordinary meaning of dinosaur has become much wider than the scientific meaning. In films, toys, and posters, it can mean almost any large creature from deep time. Flying reptile can be called a dinosaur. A marine reptile can be called a dinosaur. A creature invented for a film can be treated as a dinosaur if it has scales, teeth, and a frightening face. This creates a mixed collection that never existed as a single natural group. Real dinosaurs become mixed with pterosaurs, marine reptiles, oversized lizards, and invented monsters. The mistake is understandable because the animals are unfamiliar and only known through reconstruction. Still, the mixture changes how people imagine the past. It makes ancient life seem like one collection of monsters instead of separate ecosystems spread across millions of years. Museums can also create a false sense of certainty. A large skeleton standing in a hall looks complete and final. Visitors see the bones arranged in a clear pose. It is easy to assume that every bone came from one animal and that every piece is original. Often that is not the case. Many mounted skeletons include casts made from real fossils. Some combine original bones with replicas. Some use missing pieces modeled from better fossils of the same species. Others may include bones from several individuals because no single complete skeleton was found. This does not mean the display is dishonest. Fossils can be too fragile, heavy, rare, or valuable to place in an exposed mount. A cast can protect the original and allow people to study the animal at full size. Problem begins when visitors do not realize how much reconstruction was required. A fossil skeleton is rarely complete. A body can be scattered by water, crushed by sediment, eaten by scavengers, damaged by roots, or broken during millions of years underground. Paleontologists may find only part of a skull, several vertebrae, one limb, and pieces of the pelvis. From those remains, they must compare related species and estimate what is missing. A missing bone may seem like a small problem, but it can affect the entire pose. The angle of the hips can change the way the legs appear to stand. Position of the neck can make the animal look upright or horizontal. The length of the tail can affect balance. Feet may be arranged incorrectly if joints are poorly understood. Early reconstructions sometimes placed bones in the wrong position because there were few complete examples available. Find it easy to forget how much patient guessing stands behind a skeleton that looks perfectly certain under museum lights. Old dinosaur pictures reveal how strongly each period added its own ideas. Early artists often made dinosaurs look like heavy lizards. Their bodies rested low, their legs spread outward, and their tails dragged across the ground. Some were painted as slow animals living in swamps because people believed their weight would be difficult to support on land. Later evidence changed that view. Tracks, joints, muscle studies, and better skeletons suggested more active postures for many species. Legs were placed more directly beneath the body. Tails were raised for balance. Necks and backs became more horizontal in many reconstructions. The animals began to look less like oversized reptiles from an old garden and more like living creatures adapted to movement. Earlier scientists were not foolish at that time. They worked with the fossils available to them. A single new skeleton can correct an old arrangement. A new trackway can change an estimate of walking style. A closer study of joints can reveal that a limb could not move in the way an old painting suggested. Science improves by correcting its own work. The images change because the evidence changes. This also means that a modern reconstruction should not be treated as a perfect window. It may be more accurate than an older one, but it still contains choices about muscles, fat, skin color, posture, and behavior. Some choices are strongly supported. Others remain uncertain. The first deception is therefore not a planned lie. It comes from the way incomplete evidence becomes a complete picture in the human mind. We see a mounted skeleton and imagine a living body. We see a painted scene and imagine a real afternoon in the Cretaceous period. We hear the word dinosaur and picture a giant predator, even though many dinosaurs were small and harmless to anything larger than themselves. We place animals together that lived tens of millions of years apart. We add pterosaurs and marine reptiles because they fit the general mood. Then we forget that the entire scene was assembled by people who never saw it happen. The familiar dinosaur world is built from real evidence, but it is also filled with gaps, estimates, and old habits. The harder question begins when the bones are correct, because bones still leave out most of the living body. A skull may look complete, yet the face placed over it can still be very wrong. A dinosaur skeleton standing in a museum can feel very complete. Yet the skeleton is only the hardest part of a body that once contained far more. A living dinosaur had skin, muscle, fat, cartilage, blood vessels, nerves, eyes, lips, and other tissues that usually disappeared after death. Bones survived because they were strong enough to remain long enough for burial and fossilization. The softer parts were eaten, rotted, crushed, or dissolved. What remains can be impressive, but it is still only a small portion of the original animal. This problem becomes clear when looking at a skull. A skull seems to offer a direct picture of the face because it holds the jaws, teeth, eye openings, and nasal passages. However, a skull does not preserve the full thickness of the cheeks, lips, eyelids, throat, or muscles. When artists place skin tightly over every ridge and hollow, the animal can appear thin, dry, and permanently angry. This method creates a creature that looks harsh and frightening, but it may not resemble the living animal very well. Many dinosaur pictures were made this way because the skull was the clearest evidence available. Modern animals reveal how misleading this can be. A swan has a narrow skull with large openings and a long jaw. If its feathers, eyes, skin, and soft beak tissues were removed, the skull would not suggest the smooth white bird seen on a lake. A hippopotamus skull looks especially strange. Its eye sockets sit high, its jaws are enormous, and its teeth can make the animal seem like a thin-faced predator. A living animal has thick skin, heavy cheeks, broad lips, and a body covered with large amounts of muscle and fat. A house cat offers the same lesson in a smaller form. Its skull has sharp teeth, deep eye sockets, and a narrow muzzle. Skin stretched tightly over that skull could produce a severe little creature that would look nothing like the soft animal sleeping on a chair. It is slightly ironic that people often demand perfect accuracy from dinosaur art while accepting faces built by wrapping skin directly around bare bone. Muscles can change the appearance of an animal just as much as skin. Bones provide attachment points, but they do not display the full volume of the muscles that once covered them. Large muscles around the thighs could make the legs appear much thicker than the skeleton suggests. Muscles along the back and tail could create a smooth body line instead of a row of visible bones. Jaw muscles could fill spaces behind the skull and give the head a broader profile. Neck muscles could change the angle and thickness of the entire front of the body. Even small changes in muscle placement affect how an animal seems to stand and move. A dry skeleton may look delicate in one area and unusually heavy in another. The living body could reverse both impressions. Paleontologists study scars and rough surfaces on bones to estimate where muscles attached. These comparisons help, but they do not provide a complete answer. Muscles can vary between related animals. Skin can hang loosely or remain tight. Some animals have thick pads around joints or under the feet. Others have fleshy structures that leave little or no mark on bone. Same skeleton can therefore support several reasonable reconstructions. Both may use the same fossil evidence and still produce noticeably different animals. Cartilage creates another large gap. It is firm enough to support parts of the body, but it usually does not fossilize as clearly as bone. The ends of some bones may have been covered by thick cartilage, changing the true length and movement of a joint. The nose may have contained soft or cartilaginous structures that extended beyond the skull. The throat may have held pouches, folds, or other tissues. The mouth may have had lips, cheeks, or coverings that changed how the teeth appeared when the jaws were closed. These structures matter because the face is the area people notice first. A small change around the mouth can make an animal look calm, alert, aggressive, or strange. Yet this is also one of the areas where fossils often provide the least direct guidance. The bony socket gives information about position and possible size, but not every detail. Eyelids, surrounding muscles, protective membranes, and the visible color of the eye are usually unknown. The animal may have had a soft expression, a fixed stare, or something between the two. Same skull can be given round eyes, narrow eyes, or eyes partly hidden beneath tissue. Color adds another layer because the bones do not reveal whether the skin around the eye was plain, striped, spotted, or brightly marked. A skeleton can therefore guide the structure of the head while remaining silent about much of its appearance. The missing tissues also affected posture. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, many dinosaurs were reconstructed with their bodies held upright and their tails dragging along the ground. Large meat-eating dinosaurs were sometimes presented almost like heavy animals standing on two legs, with the chest raised and the tail acting as a support. Plant-eating dinosaurs were often given low, slow postures. These arrangements seemed reasonable when scientists compared them mainly with large, modern reptiles. Once the pose appeared in museums, paintings, toys, and books repeated it for generations. A museum mount can influence public memory in much the same way that a widely shared photograph can define an event before anyone checks the missing details. Later research changed these postures. Better fossils revealed more complete hips, tails, and spinal connections. Trackways gave direct evidence of how feet met the ground and how the body moved above them. Scientists studied balance and found that many two-legged dinosaurs held the body more horizontally. The head and chest extended forward, while the tail stretched backward as a counterweight. The tail was not normally dragged in a deep line behind the animal. It was raised and supported by muscles and ligaments. This position placed the center of mass over the hips and allowed the legs to move more efficiently. Many four-legged dinosaurs were also revised as joints and limb positions became better understood. These changes did not happen all at once. Old images remained in classrooms, museums, and popular books long after researchers had begun questioning them. A child could see an updated dinosaur in one place and a tail-dragging version in another. Film and television preserved some outdated poses because audiences recognized them easily. Familiarity made the image feel correct. This is one reason dinosaur reconstructions can remain wrong for decades. Once a particular body becomes famous, replacing it requires more than a new paper. The older creature can continue walking through popular culture even after science has left it behind. A single misplaced bone can also create a lasting mistake. Fossils are often discovered separated, damaged, or mixed with other remains. Early researchers sometimes had very few related skeletons for comparison. Bone could be turned around, attached to the wrong limb, or placed on the wrong area of the body. That error could then appear in a scientific drawing. Later artists might copy the drawing. Museums could build a model from it. Once the reconstruction became familiar, the original uncertainty was easily forgotten. The finished animal looked too complete to question. Iguanodon provides one of the best-known examples. Early fossils included a pointed bone that researchers recognized as an important feature, but its true position was unclear. In an early reconstruction, the spike was placed on the nose like a horn. This gave Iguanodon a face that seemed partly inspired by a rhinoceros. Later, better skeletons revealed that the spike belonged on the hand. It was an enlarged thumb, probably used in defense, feeding, display, or some combination of purposes. The correction changed more than one small detail. The head lost its horn, the hand gained a weapon, and the entire animal became different from the famous early model. I find the Iguanodon mistake especially revealing because one bone moved only a short distance on paper, yet it changed the animal for several generations. The error was not caused by carelessness alone. Early paleontology worked with limited material. Researchers were trying to understand animals unlike anything they had seen alive. They had parts of a body, but not the instructions for assembling it. Every new fossil offered another clue, and some clues arrived many years later. The Iguanodon spike became a useful reminder that fossils do not label themselves. A bone does not announce where it belongs. Its surface, joints, wear, and comparison with other bones must provide the answer. When those comparisons are missing, even a careful scientist can choose the wrong position. The same difficulty continues today. Although methods have improved, computer scans can reveal hidden structures. Digital models allow researchers to test how bones fit and move. Larger collections make comparison easier. Detailed studies of birds, crocodilians, and other animals provide better information about muscles and soft tissues. Even so, a skeleton remains incomplete. It can tell us about support, movement, growth, injury, and many features of the body. It cannot directly preserve every curve of the face or every layer of tissue. A reconstruction must still move from evidence into informed judgment. This is why two modern illustrations of the same dinosaur can look different without either one being careless. One may give the animal thicker lips. Another may expose more of the teeth. One may build a deep neck. Another may keep it narrow. One may place large muscles around the tail. Another may make the body lighter. The differences reveal areas where evidence remains uncertain. They do not always mean that one artist ignored science. Sometimes the fossil supports a range of possible bodies. The public often prefers one clear answer, but the bones may allow several. A mounted skeleton creates confidence because the frame is solid and visible. The missing tissues create uncertainty because they must be estimated. Together, they can produce a convincing animal that is partly measured and partly reconstructed. The skeleton is real evidence, but it does not speak in complete sentences. People give it a posture, a face, and a living surface. Others disappear when a new fossil or better comparison makes the mistake clear. Bones gave us a useful frame, but they also encouraged faces and postures that may never have existed. Once the hard structure is understood, attention moves toward the softer coverings that fossils often fail to preserve. Real surprise begins with skin, feathers, and colors that may have made these animals almost unrecognizable. For a long time, the easiest way to draw a dinosaur was to begin with a large lizard. Artists gave it thick legs, a long tail, rough scales, and skin-colored gray, green, or brown. These choices seemed reasonable because reptiles were the closest familiar animals that many people could imagine. The same look appeared in school books, toys, museum murals, and films. A young viewer could therefore believe that dinosaur skin had already been seen and measured. In truth, most of those colors and surfaces were guesses. Bones can preserve the frame of a body, but they usually do not preserve the covering that people notice first. When skin, feathers, and color disappear, artists must decide what to place over the skeleton. For many years, they chose the safest picture available, a giant reptile with plain scales. That image was not completely invented. Some dinosaurs did have scales, and fossil skin impressions have preserved small patches from several groups. Large plant eaters, armored dinosaurs, horned dinosaurs, and some meat-eating dinosaurs provide clear evidence of scaly areas. The mistake came from turning one kind of covering into a rule for every species. Dinosaurs lived for a very long time and developed many different bodies. Their skin was not more uniform than the skin and hair of mammals today. A rhinoceros, a bat, a seal, and a house cat all belong to the same broad animal class, but no careful artist would cover them in the same surface. Dinosaurs deserve the same caution. The greatest change came from fossils that preserved feathers or simple structures resembling feathers. Many of these animals belonged to theropods, the group that includes famous meat-eating dinosaurs and modern birds. Fine sediment sometimes buried a body quickly enough to leave dark outlines around the bones. Under careful study, those outlines revealed filaments, soft coverings, and organized feathers. Some were short and simple. Others had shafts and branching veins similar to the feathers seen on living birds. These discoveries did not turn every dinosaur into a bird, but they made the old image of the completely naked theropod difficult to defend. Feathers were especially common among theropods close to birds. Dromaeosaurs, the group containing Velociraptor and its relatives, provide some of the clearest examples. Fossils of Microraptor preserve long feathers on the arms, legs, and tail. Other relatives preserve body coverings that would have made them look soft from a distance, even while their teeth and claws remained dangerous. Velociraptor itself has been found with small bumps on an arm bone that are consistent with the attachment points of large feathers. Complete color and thickness of its covering remain uncertain, but the familiar smooth-skinned film animal is no longer the only serious possibility. A recently described relative makes the contrast even stronger. The remains are incomplete, so its full appearance cannot be observed directly. Its close place among Microraptors suggests an animal with long feathers on the front and rear limbs, similar to other members of that group. It was probably much smaller and lighter than the large raptors known from films. The picture is not of a naked runner moving through open ground, but of a compact predator with a body closely connected to the early history of birds. Feathers did not need to lift an animal into the air to be useful. Simple coverings could hold warm air near the body. Longer feathers could make the arms, tail, or head more visible during display. Different colors might help individuals recognize members of their own species. Adults could use feathered limbs to cover eggs or young animals in a nest. Feathers might also protect skin from sunlight and minor injury. These uses could exist before powered flight. A dinosaur could carry a large coat of feathers and never leave the ground. This point matters because flight often controls how people imagine feathers. Modern birds make the connection seem automatic, yet ostriches, emus, cassowaries, and many other birds carry feathers without using them for normal flight. Their feathers still provide warmth, display, protection, and signals. An extinct theropod could use its covering in similar ways. The first simple filaments were not necessarily small wings waiting to become useful. They were body structures that could perform ordinary tasks. Over many generations, some lineages changed them into surfaces capable of helping with gliding or flight. Feathered predator would have looked different from the monsters made familiar by older films. The outline of the body would be softer. The arms might appear broader because long feathers extended beyond the fingers. The tail could carry fans, bands, or long veins. Feathers around the neck might hide the narrow bones beneath them. The animal could still bite, chase, and use sharp claws. The covering does not remove danger. Eagles, hawks, and cassowaries are fully feathered animals, and none becomes harmless because its body looks soft. Not every dinosaur carried feathers across the whole body. Evidence must be considered species by species and body region by body region. Some fossils preserve clear scales. Others preserve feathers. Many preserve neither. Large animals may have needed less insulation than small animals, though size alone cannot answer every question. Species might have had feathers when young and fewer as an adult. Another might have carried a feathered back, arms, or tail while keeping scales on the feet and other areas. There is no need to choose between a completely scaly dinosaur and a completely feathered one. Living birds already display this mixture. Their legs and feet often carry scales, while feathers cover most of the body. Some have bare skin around the face or neck. Dinosaurs near the origin of birds could also combine surfaces. Fossils of certain species preserve simple filaments in one area and scales in another. A reconstruction with both is therefore not confused. It may be closer to the living animal than either extreme. The old habit of covering the entire body with one repeated texture was convenient for artists, but nature does not need to make its animals convenient. Color created an even larger area of guesswork. For most of the history of dinosaur science, researchers could say little about it. Fossil bones are commonly brown, black, or pale because minerals changed them during burial. Those mineral colors do not reveal the colors of the living animal. Artists often selected dull greens and grays because they seemed reptilian and serious. Bright colors were sometimes treated as childish, even though living reptiles and birds can carry red, blue, yellow, orange, white, and shining black. There was no strong reason to assume that ancient animals avoided the same range. Research on tiny structures called melanosomes changed this discussion. Melanosomes contain melanin in living animals and contribute to black, brown, reddish, and some shining colors. In rare fossils, their form and arrangement can remain visible under powerful microscopes. Researchers compare them with melanosomes in modern feathers to estimate likely colors. This method does not recover every shade, and later chemical changes can complicate the result. Still, it can provide evidence where artists once had only preference. Studies have suggested real patterns for several feathered dinosaurs. Anchiornis has been reconstructed with black and white feathers and a reddish crest. Microraptor may have carried gloxin dark plumage with an iridescent quality. Sinosauropteryx had evidence of bands along the tail and a darker pattern around the face. These results do not mean that every detail is settled forever. They do mean that some dinosaurs were not plain gray bodies placed against a green forest. Their coverings could carry stripes, contrast, shine, and clear areas of color. Color may have served many ordinary needs. A banded tail could break up the outline of an animal among plants and shadows. Dark feathers could absorb heat. Bright areas might help with display or recognition. Different colors could appear with age, sex, season, or health, as they do in living animals. We rarely know which purpose applied to a fossil species, so simple explanations are safer. What matters is that color belonged to the biology of the animal. It was not decoration added after the serious work was complete. Skin and feathers are easy to lose because they decay quickly. A dinosaur might die with a patterned face, a thick coat, and long tail feathers, yet leave only bones. Even when traces remain, they may appear as faint marks visible only under special light or close study. Many fossils were collected before researchers knew to search for such details. Preparation tools could remove soft impressions while exposing the skeleton beneath. A beautiful, clean set of bones might therefore come at the cost of evidence that once surrounded it. This loss creates a quiet bias. Hard parts survive, so hard surfaces dominate the public picture. Teeth, claws, horns, and armor remain easy to display. Soft coverings disappear, so they feel less certain and receive less attention. The result is an animal that looks more severe than it may have looked in life. A fluffy body can carry the same skeleton as a frightening one. Once the covering is removed, both become nearly identical arrangements of bone. There is also a difference between knowing a color and knowing an entire appearance. A dark feather found near one arm does not prove that the whole animal was black. A reddish pigment in one region does not reveal every marking across the back and tail. Researchers must record exactly where each sample came from and how well it was preserved. Artists then need to separate evidence from reasonable invention. This makes a careful reconstruction less certain than a painted photograph, but more honest. The strongest images today identify what is known, what is likely, and what remains open, instead of giving every patch of skin the same false confidence. For decades, people treated dull green skin as careful science, even though it was often little more than a respectable guess, repeated often enough to look official. A modern designer working from the same limited evidence could produce several convincing versions, just as one simple digital model can receive many different textures without changing the structure beneath it. I think the useful lesson is not that every old picture was foolish, but that a familiar image should remain open to correction when rare soft tissues give us better information. Old scaly dinosaur was built from real bones, but much of its outer surface came from habit. Feathers, mixed coverings, and preserved pigment structures now give a wider and more careful picture. Once color returns to the body, another familiar source begins removing it again, and the loudest version of the dinosaur is waiting inside the cinema. Cinema gave many people their first clear view of a living dinosaur. The bones in museums were still and incomplete, but the animals on a screen moved, breathed, hunted, and made noise. They pushed through trees, struck metal doors, and chased people who rarely had time to rest. For a viewer, the experience felt much closer to watching real wildlife than looking at a fossil. Trouble was that every movement, sound, color, and expression had been chosen by people. Films needed animals that could be understood quickly, so dinosaurs became large, loud, clever, and constantly dangerous. Those choices created memorable scenes, but they also built a picture that many viewers carried into ordinary life as if it came directly from science. Velociraptor is one of the clearest examples. In popular films, it is often tall enough to look an adult person in the face. It has a long, narrow body, bare skin, visible teeth, and hands that seem almost human in the way they grasp and open things. It watches, plans, tests barriers, and works with others with remarkable precision. The real Velociraptor was much smaller. An adult was roughly 2 meters long from nose to tail, but much of that length came from the tail. It stood around half a meter at the hip and probably weighed around 15 kilograms. It was still an armed predator with sharp teeth and a raised claw on each foot, yet it was not the towering animal seen in the best-known films. Its body was also probably covered with feathers. A Velociraptor arm bone preserves small raised marks that match places where strong feathers attach in living birds. This does not preserve every feather directly, but it supports a feathered covering rather than smooth, naked skin. Feathers would have changed the outline of the arms, body, and possibly the tail. The animal might have looked less like a thin lizard and more like an unusual ground bird with a long snout and dangerous feet. It could still attack prey, defend itself, and cause serious injury. The difference is not about making it harmless. It is about removing a design that was created mainly to make the creature easier to recognize as a monster. The larger film raptor borrowed much from Deinonychus and other bigger members of the same family. Deinonychus lived in North America and was heavier than Velociraptor. It had the familiar curved claw, long balancing tail, and active body that helped change scientific ideas about dinosaurs during the 20th century. Its fossils influenced the design of the famous screen predator, while the name Velociraptor was kept because it sounded sharp and memorable. Later films copied the successful image, so the enlarged animal became standard. A name from Mongolia was placed over a body closer to a North American relative, then repeated until the mixture became more familiar than either real animal. The intelligence of these animals was also enlarged. Dromaeosaurs had brains that suggest active senses and coordinated movement, but fossils cannot demonstrate the careful planning seen in dramatic scenes. A skull can provide information about brain size, balance, smell, hearing, and vision. It cannot prove that an animal understood door handles, prepared traps, or communicated through detailed group plans. Some dromaeosaurs may have hunted near one another, and some track sites suggest that certain dinosaurs moved in groups. Group movement does not automatically mean a human-style team. Modern crocodiles, birds, and many mammals can gather around food or respond to each other without planning every action. Tyrannosaurus rex received a different set of changes. Films usually introduce it with heavy footsteps, a raised head, and a roar strong enough to shake the room. Its teeth remain exposed even when the mouth is closed, giving the face a permanent, threatening expression. The body often pauses in a dramatic pose before the animal attacks. These details are effective because viewers understand them at once. Loud sound means danger. Bare teeth mean aggression. A raised head makes the animal appear larger. Real animals do not arrange their bodies for an audience, and a hunting Tyrannosaurus would have gained little from announcing every approach with a long roar. The exposed teeth may also be wrong. A study published in 2023 compared theropod teeth and jaws with living reptiles and argued that many meat-eating dinosaurs probably had soft tissues covering the teeth when the mouth was closed. These tissues are commonly called lips, although they would not need to move like human lips. The researchers noted that theropod teeth did not carry the same outerwear seen in crocodilians, whose teeth remain exposed. They also found that large theropod teeth were not too large to fit behind a closed covering. Under this reconstruction, Tyrannosaurus would still reveal its teeth when opening the mouth, but its resting face could appear less severe. This idea remains part of an active scientific discussion. Fossils rarely preserve the exact edge of the mouth, so researchers compare bone texture, tooth wear, living animals, and the positions of small openings for nerves and blood vessels. Different experts can give different weight to the same evidence. The useful point is not that every earlier picture must be thrown away at once. It is that the familiar exposed grin was also a reconstruction, not a feature anyone observed. A face repeated across posters and films can feel proven simply because people have seen it since childhood. Sound contains even more uncertainty. No person has recorded a non-bird dinosaur. The tissues that produced sound rarely fossilize, and the air around the animals vanished with them. Film roars are assembled from recordings of living animals, altered by sound designers, and matched to the action on screen. Final noise must be deep, powerful, and easy to hear over music. It is an artistic product. It may create the right feeling for a scene, but it is not a recovered voice from the Cretaceous period. Dinosaurs probably made sounds, though the range could have been very different from film roars. Birds and crocodilians, their closest living relatives, produce hisses, calls, booms, grunts, and low vibrations. Some birds make closed mouth sounds by moving air into the throat or neck while keeping the beak shut. Large dinosaurs may have produced low sounds that traveled well through their surroundings. Crests and long nasal passages in certain species could have changed or strengthened those sounds. A preserved larynx from an armored dinosaur also suggests that at least some dinosaurs controlled airflow in ways that were more complex than a simple reptile hiss. None of this gives one exact voice to Tyrannosaurus. A low boom might have been felt as much as heard. A hiss at close distance could still be alarming. Quiet calls could have helped parents and young remain near one another. Other sounds might have marked territory, attracted mates, or warned nearby animals. There could also have been non-vocal noises from feet, jaws, feathers, tails, or bodies moving through plants. A dinosaur did not need a long lion-like roar to communicate. The cinema selected the roar because it gives an audience a clear signal, and because silence would make a large predator seem less dramatic. Films also keep dinosaurs active for far too long. Predators chase vehicles, climb through buildings, fight other animals, and begin another pursuit with little pause. Real predators spend much of their time resting, waiting, watching, digesting, or moving without urgency. Hunting costs energy and carries a risk of injury. Broken tooth, damaged foot, or deep wound could become deadly without medical care. Even a strong predator would avoid useless effort. Tyrannosaurus did not need to run after every animal it noticed. It could choose easier prey, investigate a carcass, wait near a useful area, or simply remain still. Scavenging was not a shameful activity either. Large modern predators often hunt and eat animals they did not kill. Tyrannosaurus probably did both when opportunities appeared. Strong jaws and large teeth allowed it to break bone and remove food from a carcass. Its senses could help it locate living prey or dead animals. Film stories prefer a direct chase because watching a predator smell an old carcass, eat slowly, and rest would not create the same tension. Biology has no concern for pride. Food obtained with less danger is valuable food. Herbivorous dinosaurs receive similar treatment. They are often calm background animals until a predator arrives. An animal with horns, armor, a heavy tail, or several tons of body mass could be extremely dangerous. Plant eating does not mean gentle behavior. Modern cattle, elephants, rhinoceroses, and large birds can injure other animals while defending space, young, or access to food. A triceratops did not need to become a hero or villain. It needed to remain alive. The same was true for the predator facing it. Cinema turns this ordinary struggle into a simple contest. Meat-eaters become villains that attack because the story needs danger. Plant-eaters become peaceful victims or protective parents. In reality, every animal was trying to eat, avoid injury, reproduce, protect useful space, and respond to changing conditions. Predator could be frightened. A herbivore could attack first. A young animal could make a poor decision. An old animal could conserve strength. Their behavior did not come from moral roles. The emotional effect is powerful because fear is easier to remember than uncertainty. A loud roar, a moving claw, and a row of exposed teeth remain clear for years. Measurements of a fossil arm bone or careful arguments about tooth wear require more attention. When the film image returns again and again, it becomes the standard against which science is judged. A feathered velociraptor may then look wrong, even when it is supported by stronger evidence. Closed-mouthed Tyrannosaurus may look weak, even though a resting animal has no reason to display every tooth. There is something quietly amusing about giving an extinct animal the wrong body, the wrong voice, and an exaggerated mind, then praising it for being convincing. The same process happens whenever a polished screen image becomes easier to remember than the slower evidence behind it, because repetition can make a design feel like a fact. I still enjoy the famous scenes, but the real animals become more interesting when they are allowed to rest hesitate, eat what they find, and exist without performing for us. Cinema did not invent dinosaurs, but it selected the features that produced the strongest fear and repeated them until they felt natural. Beneath the noise and movement, even the names attached to these animals may be less stable than they appear. One familiar label has already vanished, returned, and entered a dispute that refuses to remain buried. A dinosaur name can sound firm and permanent. It appears on museum labels, toy boxes, books, and television screens, written as though the animal has been identified beyond doubt. The name gives scattered bones a clear place in the world. It tells visitors that this skeleton belongs to one kind of animal and not another. Yet a scientific name is not a promise that the identity will remain unchanged forever. It is a working decision based on the fossils available at the time. When better bones are found, when old specimens are measured again, or when researchers compare features differently, the decision can change. Naming an extinct animal begins with evidence that is often incomplete. A new dinosaur may be known from part of a skull, a few vertebrae, a limb bone, or several teeth. Researchers describe the visible features and compare them with animals already known. When the differences appear important enough, they may create a new genus or species. The name becomes attached to a specimen that serves as the main reference. This specimen is important, but it may represent only a small part of the body. A damaged bone can therefore carry a large amount of responsibility. Later discoveries can make the first decision look less secure. A more complete skeleton may reveal that the supposed special feature was common in a related species. Another fossil may connect two forms that once seemed separate. Closer study may find that a bone was distorted underground. Even the age of the animal can matter. Young dinosaurs did not always look like small copies of adults. Their skulls, limbs, teeth, crests, and proportions could change greatly as they grew. A name created from a young individual may disappear when researchers realize that the animal already had an adult name. The reverse can happen as well. Two skeletons may be placed under one name because their surviving bones seem similar. Years later, new material can reveal differences in the skull, hands, hips, or tail. Researchers may discover that the animals lived at different times or in separate regions. Detailed analysis can divide one familiar group into two or more groups. Nothing about the fossils has changed. The change occurs in how the evidence is compared and arranged. Same bones can move through several identities during their study. Brontosaurus became the most famous example of a dinosaur name that refused to stay settled. The name was introduced during the 19th century for a large, long-necked dinosaur from North America. A few decades later, researchers concluded that Brontosaurus was not different enough from Apatosaurus to deserve its own genus. Since Apatosaurus had been named earlier, its name had priority. Brontosaurus remained popular with the public, but many scientific books treated it as an outdated label. The animal did not disappear from toys and cartoons, yet its formal identity had been removed. In 2015, a large study of diplodocid dinosaurs compared many specimens and anatomical features. The researchers argued that fossils traditionally placed in Brontosaurus differed enough from Apatosaurus to support the return of Brontosaurus as a separate genus. The old name entered scientific discussion again after more than a century. This did not make every question vanish. Classification depends on which features are measured, how differences are weighted, and how the family tree is calculated. Other researchers can test the same fossils and reach different conclusions. Brontosaurus returned as a scientific proposal supported by detailed analysis, not as a name carved permanently into stone. This story can seem confusing because the public usually meets the final label rather than the argument behind it. A museum card has limited space. It rarely explains every earlier name, disputed feature, or alternative family tree. Visitors see one word in large letters and assume the matter is complete. The uncertainty remains in papers, collections, and discussions between specialists. When a label changes, it may appear that scientists suddenly reversed themselves. In reality, the change often comes after years of measurement and quiet disagreement. Growth creates some of the hardest problems. A young dinosaur can have a narrow skull, long legs, and different tooth proportions. As the animal matures, the skull may become deeper, the body heavier, and ornaments larger. If only a young skeleton and an adult skeleton are available, they can look like separate species. Researchers must decide whether differences reflect age, sex, individual variation, injury, or true separation between groups. Bone tissue can help estimate age because growth marks and microscopic changes record development. Even this evidence can be difficult to read when bones are damaged or growth was irregular. Nanotyrannus stood at the center of this problem for decades. The name was used for a smaller tyrannosaur with a narrow skull and more lightly built body than an adult T-Rex. Some researchers argued that it represented a separate predator. Others considered the fossils to be young Tyrannosaurus individuals that had not yet developed the deep skull and massive frame of adulthood. Both ideas could explain some of the evidence. Young T-Rex animals were expected to be faster and more slender than adults, so a small, light tyrannosaur did not automatically require a new name. For years, studies of growth and anatomy kept the disagreement alive. Certain specimens were used as examples of young T-Rex, while supporters of Nanotyrannus pointed to tooth counts, arm proportions, skull details, and other differences. The debate was made harder because some important fossils were incomplete or difficult for researchers to access. A single skull could be interpreted in several ways. Each new analysis appeared to settle one detail while opening another. Research published in 2025 changed the balance strongly. Studies of more complete material and microscopic growth evidence argued that fossils assigned to Nanotyrannus were not simply young T-Rex. One study examined anatomical differences and growth patterns. Another studied growth preserved in a throat bone from the original skull and concluded that the individual was mature or close to maturity. These results supported Nanotyrannus as a separate tyrannosaur that lived beside T-Rex. Work published in 2026 on Tyrannosaurus growth also found that two disputed smaller specimens did not fit the pattern built from other T-Rex fossils. The disagreement changed when an overlooked bone and better specimens became available. Even strong evidence does not erase earlier work. Previous researchers were dealing with fewer fossils and different methods. Some ideas may be corrected, while their measurements remain useful. Scientific names carry this history. They preserve the moment when a specimen was first described, along with the limits of that period. A name can remain familiar even after the animal beneath it has been moved, divided, combined, or reconsidered. The rules of naming add another layer. The earliest properly established name usually receives priority when two names describe the same group. This prevents researchers from choosing a favorite label whenever an animal is revised. It also means that a popular name can be replaced by an older, less familiar one. The public may continue using the famous version, while specialists use the name required by formal rules. A name can also survive in popular culture after scientists stop treating it as valid. Names also affect how an animal is imagined. Tyrannosaurus means tyrant lizard, and Velociraptor is often understood as a swift thief. Such names are memorable, but they do not describe behavior or size completely. A dinosaur with a powerful name may have been small enough to carry under one arm. Another may have been lightly built, covered with feathers, or more interested in insects and small prey than dramatic battles. The name was often chosen from one feature one early interpretation, a place or a person. It was never meant to contain the entire life of the animal. Some names were created during intense competition. During the early years of dinosaur discovery, researchers sometimes worked quickly to describe fossils before rivals. Limited preparation and incomplete comparison increased the chance of creating extra species from poor material. Several names could later collapse into one when larger collections became available. Other specimens were described so briefly that modern researchers struggle to determine what the name should include. The excitement of discovery left labels that later generations had to inspect carefully. Classification is built by comparing features across many animals. Researchers record details of the skull, teeth, spine, limbs, and pelvis, then use them to estimate relationships. Computer analyses can test many possible family trees. A small change in the data can move an animal to another branch. New species can also change the arrangement because they fill gaps or combine features once thought separate. The resulting tree is not random, but it remains sensitive to the evidence entered. This is why dinosaur family trees are revised so often. An older book may place one genus near the base of a group, while a newer study moves it toward another branch. Different analyses can exist because researchers select different species, features, and methods. Repeated results gradually create greater confidence, but certainty remains limited. Fossils provide scattered samples from a long history, and many branches are still missing. The changing labels do not mean that paleontology is failing. A classification that never changed would suggest that new evidence had stopped mattering. Revisions reveal that old specimens are still being studied rather than left untouched. Bone collected more than a century ago can receive a new identity after scanning, microscopic work, or comparison with a recent discovery. Museum drawers can change the dinosaur family tree without anyone digging a new hole. The human desire for stable names remains strong. Clear label is easier to remember than a paragraph of uncertainty. It allows a child to name a toy and a museum to organize a hall. Scientists need labels too, because research would become impossible if every specimen required a full description each time. The difficulty begins when the label is mistaken for the animal itself. The name arranges evidence. It is not the evidence. Museum labels have calm confidence, even when the animal beneath them has changed identities several times in a century. A digital record can be corrected before breakfast, while a dinosaur name printed across books, toys, and childhood memories may resist change for generations. I find the crossed-out labels reassuring because they leave a visible trace of people returning to old bones and looking more carefully, instead of pretending that the first answer was always enough. Dinosaur name can remain famous while its scientific meaning changes, disappears, or returns in a different form. Once the labels are set aside, the bodies beneath them begin creating a more physical problem. One enormous animal carried a hidden structure that made its great weight far less simple than anyone first expected. A dinosaur body can appear simple when reduced to one familiar feature. Sauropods become long necks, Tyrannosaurus becomes a large head with small arms, Stegosaurus becomes a row of plates, and Triceratops becomes 3 horns. These features are easy to remember, so they often replace the rest of the animal. A picture gives each creature a clear outline, but the living body had to solve many problems at once. It had to breathe, balance, move, eat, control heat, carry its weight, and survive injury. Once these needs are considered, the famous outlines become far more complicated. Sauropods provide the clearest example. Their necks were not simply stretched versions of ordinary reptile necks. In some species, the neck reached lengths that no other land animal has matched. A structure that long creates immediate difficulties. Every extra section adds weight. Muscles must hold the neck and move it. Blood must reach the head. Air must travel through a long windpipe. The body must remain balanced while the head moves away from the shoulders. Poorly built neck would place too much stress on the spine and require enormous muscles just to keep the head from falling. Several features helped sauropods manage this problem. Their heads were relatively small and light compared with the body. They did not carry large grinding teeth or heavy chewing muscles like many mammals. Food could be gathered with limited processing in the mouth, then handled inside the digestive system. A lighter head reduced the load at the end of the neck. The neck also contained many vertebrae, and individual vertebrae could be long. This spread the total length across a supported series rather than one simple extension. Researchers have argued that large body size, stable four-legged stance, light heads, unusual neck bones, and an air sac breathing system helped sauropods develop their extreme necks. Bones themselves were not solid blocks. Many sauropod vertebrae contained internal chambers connected with air spaces from the respiratory system. These chambers reduced mass while keeping bone along areas that carried stress. In some studied sauropod and theropod vertebrae, air occupied more than half of the internal volume. The animal could look extremely heavy while carrying a skeleton carefully lightened within. The spaces did not make the bones weak in a simple way. Internal walls and supports could place material where it was needed, allowing a hollow structure to remain strong when its load was distributed properly. An air sac system may also have helped with breathing. Birds use air sacs and an efficient flow of air through the lungs. Fossil evidence from many Saurischia dinosaurs suggests that related air spaces extended into parts of the skeleton. A giant body and a long neck would have made breathing difficult, especially if stale air remained trapped in a long passage. A system that kept air moving efficiently could support the body during feeding and travel. The same arrangement also reduced skeletal mass. What looked like one strange feature depended on the head, spine, lungs, muscles, stance, and digestive habits working together. This changes the common picture of a sauropod as a heavy animal built from solid material. Size was real, but the body included air spaces, thin walls, and complex supports. The neck was not a simple pole attached to a large body. It was a flexible structure carried by specialized bones and soft tissues. The animal still needed strong muscles and ligaments, but those tissues worked with a lightened frame. A drawing can capture the neck in seconds. The living animal required a complete system to make that length possible every day. Tyrannosaurus is simplified. Its arms are small, so they are often called useless. They were reduced, and their movement was limited. Yet small does not automatically mean without function. The arm bones were strongly built, and muscle attachment areas suggest that the limbs could produce considerable force. Each hand carried two main fingers with claws. Researchers have proposed several possible uses, including holding objects, helping during mating, assisting movement from the ground, or serving during feeding. None of these ideas is settled, and the arms may have become less important as the skull and jaws became the main tools. Their exact use remains uncertain, but complete uselessness is harder to prove than a cartoon makes it appear. The small arms also need to be understood as one part of a changing body. Tyrannosaur ancestors had longer forelimbs. Across their evolution, the head became larger and more powerful, while the forelimbs became shorter. This may reflect a shift in how the animal captured food. A large skull with strong jaws could perform work that earlier relatives carried out with both head and hands. Reduced arms may also have stayed away from dangerous bites when several animals fed close together. Several explanations remain possible, and more than one pressure may have influenced the change. The body did not lose one feature in isolation. It moved strength toward other areas. Stegosaurus has suffered from an even simpler judgment. Its brain was small compared with its large body, and this became a common joke about stupidity. Brain size matters, but it cannot be read without considering the animal and the tasks it needed to perform. Stegosaurus did not need human language, tool-making, or complex planning. It needed to find plants, move through its surroundings, recognize danger, control its limbs, and respond to other animals. Small brain could manage the behavior required by its body. Intelligence is difficult to measure, even in living animals, and a fossil brain case gives limited information about an extinct one. Claim that a small brain made Stegosaurus almost incapable of ordinary behavior says more than the bones support. The plates along its back also resist one simple explanation. They look like armor, but their position left much of the sides exposed, and the plates were not built like thick shields. They contained blood vessels and changed as the animal grew. Researchers have discussed display, recognition, temperature control, and defense among their possible roles. A large side view would have made the animal look taller and more noticeable. Different arrangements may have helped members of the same species recognize one another. Blood moving through the plates may have exchanged heat with the air, though this remains debated. The plates could also have discouraged an attacker without serving as the main weapon. Tail spikes were better placed for direct defense. The most careful answer may be that the plates did several jobs. Living structures are often used in more than one way. A horn can help in combat and display. A feather can hold warmth and carry color. A large ear can receive sound and release heat. Stegosaurus plates could change appearance with age, affect the body outline, and take part in temperature control without having one purpose. Their surface covering is also uncertain, so the plates may have looked different from bare fossil bones. The famous row was not simply decoration or armor. It was living tissue connected to blood supply, growth, and behavior. Triceratops is commonly reduced to a large rhinoceros with 3 horns. Comparison is easy because both animals carried facial weapons and walked on 4 legs. Yet the skull of Triceratops was built in its own way. Broad frill extended behind the head and changed as the animal aged. The horns also altered their direction and proportions during growth. These changes suggest that the head carried information about age and maturity. The frill may have helped with display, recognition, communication, or contests between individuals. Injuries on some skulls support the idea that horns and frills sometimes met force, but combat does not explain every feature. The head was a growing social structure, as well as a feeding and defensive tool. Color and soft covering could have made the frill more noticeable. Fossils rarely preserve the exact surface, so the animal may have carried patterns or contrasts now missing. A large frill placed near the eyes of another Triceratops would have been an obvious area for visual signals. Young animals had different proportions from adults, so an individual could appear different across its life without changing species. The head people remember as a fixed symbol was constantly growing and altering. It was attached to muscles, skin, blood vessels, and behavior that cannot be seen in a clean skull. Spinosaurus demonstrates how an entire body can change when new fossils appear. Older reconstructions treated it as a standard large theropod with a sail on its back. It stood with long hind legs, walked mainly on land, and resembled other meat-eaters apart from the tall spines. Later discoveries suggested shorter hind limbs, dense bones, a narrow snout, conical teeth, and a deep tail with tall supports. These features connected the animal more closely with rivers, fish, and time around water. The old land predator did not disappear completely, but it became a less adequate description. Degree of aquatic behavior remains debated. Some studies have argued that Spinosaurus could move through water and pursue prey beneath the surface. Others have found problems with its balance, body form, buoyancy, and swimming efficiency. Recent work has also supported a shoreline or wading predator that fed around rivers without living like a fully aquatic animal. Disagreement prevents one dramatic reconstruction from becoming another false certainty. Spinosaurus was unusual and closely linked with aquatic food and environments, but its exact movements between land and water remain under study. Every famous dinosaur feature becomes less simple inside a living body. A long neck depends on breathing and light bones. A small arm may retain strength after losing importance. A plate can grow, carry blood, and communicate. A frill can change with age. A sail-backed predator can move between environments in ways difficult to reconstruct. The symbols are not wrong, but incomplete. They isolate one feature from the systems that allowed the animal to live. It is quietly amusing that enormous animals are often remembered through one small joke, one row of plates, or one convenient comparison with something alive today. Modern diagrams can reduce a complicated machine to a few clean icons. And dinosaur pictures often do the same to bodies that had to solve thousands of ordinary problems at once. I am left less impressed by any single horn or neck than by the way bones, air, muscle, skin, and behavior had to keep working together through every ordinary day. The bodies of dinosaurs were far more complicated than the simple outlines that made them famous. Yet, a body alone cannot tell us what an animal did during an ordinary day. Strangest mistake may begin when a tooth, a wound, or a line of footprints is asked to explain an entire life. Predatory dinosaurs are often remembered in motion. They run through forests, chase anything that appears, fight other animals, and seem ready to attack from the moment they enter a scene. This image is useful for films because movement creates tension. A resting predator gives the audience little to fear. A real predator, however, cannot spend every hour hunting. Running costs energy. Fighting causes injury. A failed chase can leave an animal tired without providing food. The daily life of a meat-eating dinosaur probably included long periods of waiting, walking, watching, resting, and digesting. Hunting was important, but it was only one part of survival. Modern predators make this clear. Lions sleep for much of the day. Crocodiles can remain still for long periods. Large birds of prey often spend more time sitting and watching than attacking. These animals are not lazy. They are saving strength for moments when effort may bring food. Dinosaurs lived under the same basic limits. Their muscles needed fuel. Their bodies needed recovery. A large theropod that wasted energy on every possible target would increase its own risk of hunger and injury. The strongest animal in an area still had to make careful choices. Tyrannosaurus rex is often placed at the center of this discussion. For years, people argued about whether it was mainly a hunter or mainly a scavenger. The argument became popular because each side offered a very different picture. A hunter seemed active and powerful. A scavenger seemed less impressive to many viewers. Real animals do not respect this division. Large predators often hunt when the chance is good and eat dead animals when food is available. A carcass contains the same meat whether the predator killed it or found it. T-Rex had strong senses, a powerful bite, and a body capable of moving across large areas. These features could help with both hunting and scavenging. Evidence of active attacks exists. Fossils have been found with tyrannosaur teeth embedded in bones that later healed. One famous example involves a hadrosaur tailbone with a broken Tyrannosaurus tooth inside it. The bone grew around the injury, which means the prey survived for some time after being bitten. This is useful because a healed wound cannot come from feeding on an animal that was already dead. It records at least one failed attack on living prey. Yet one attack does not describe every meal. A predator that hunted on one day could feed from a carcass on another. A tooth in a healed bone gives us a brief event, It does not provide the hours before the bite or the days after it. We do not know how long the chase lasted, whether other animals were nearby, or why the prey escaped. The fossil preserves contact between two bodies, not a complete hunting scene. It is easy to expand that moment into a dramatic story because the tooth and wound are clear. The missing details are much larger than the evidence. Careful interpretation must leave room for what cannot be recovered. Plant-eating dinosaurs are often given the opposite treatment. Films place them quietly in the background, feeding in groups until a predator arrives. Their diet makes them appear gentle. Eating plants, however, does not make a large animal harmless. Modern elephants, rhinoceroses, cattle, hippos, and cassowaries can be extremely dangerous. They may attack when frightened, crowded, injured, or protecting young. Many herbivorous dinosaurs carried horns, thick skulls, armor, heavy tails, spikes, or enormous body mass. These structures were not needed for chewing leaves. They could discourage predators and settle conflicts with other members of the same species. Triceratops could injure another animal without behaving like a villain. Its horns and weight made close contact dangerous. An ankylosaur could swing a heavy tail when threatened. Stegosaurus carried spikes that could reach the body of an attacker. Large sauropods did not need sharp weapons to create risk. Foot placed badly could crush a smaller animal. A moving tail or shifting body could cause serious injury. The quiet plant eater in a painted scene was still a living animal with space to defend and a strong reason to avoid being bitten. Groups of herbivores could be intimidating through mass alone. A herd moving toward water or feeding ground would occupy a large area. Individuals might press close together, change direction, or react suddenly to danger. Even without aggression, dozens of heavy bodies could make the ground difficult for smaller animals. Young animals might stay near adults. Injured or frightened individuals could become unpredictable. A predator approaching such a group had to judge distance, movement, and risk. Easiest target was not always easy. Some dinosaurs may have lived in social groups for at least part of their lives. Fossil trackways preserve several animals moving in similar directions. Bone beds contain many individuals of the same species. Nesting sites reveal repeated use of particular areas. These clues suggest group movement, shared nesting grounds, or gatherings around useful resources. They do not prove that every species lived in stable herds. Animals can gather during migration, breeding, drought, or feeding without remaining together all year. The evidence gives possible patterns rather than one rule for all dinosaurs. Nests provide another view of behavior. Fossil eggs have been found arranged in circles, row clusters. Some adult skeletons were preserved near or over nests. Oviraptor was once accused of stealing eggs because one skeleton was found close to a nest. Later discoveries connected similar eggs with Oviraptor embryos and adults in nesting positions. The animal once presented as a thief may have been protecting or covering its own eggs. This change did not require a new body. It required a better understanding of the place where the body was found. Parental care probably varied widely. Some dinosaurs may have guarded nests. Others may have covered eggs with soil or plants and left them. Young animals could have depended on adults for food or protection, while other hatchlings may have moved and fed soon after emerging. Fossils of growth stages, nests, and group arrangements help researchers consider these possibilities. The common picture of a reptile laying eggs and leaving immediately is too simple. Birds, which are living dinosaurs, provide many examples of nesting, guarding, feeding, teaching, and group defense. Crocodilians also protect nests and young. Complex care was not beyond ancient reptiles. Footprints can preserve behavior that skeletons cannot. A skeleton records a body after death. Trackway records movement during life. The spacing between prints can suggest walking or running. Changes in direction can reveal turning. Several lines of tracks can indicate animals moving through the same area. A deep print may reflect soft ground, greater pressure, or a heavier step. Tail marks are rare, which helped correct the old idea that many dinosaurs dragged their tails. Tracks can even preserve a slip, a pause, or an uneven step. Yet footprints require caution. Several animals using the same route at different times can create what looks like a group. Rain, mud, erosion, and later pressure can change the size and edge of a print. A small track may belong to a young individual rather than a small species. A line that looks like running may be affected by missing prints. As with bones, the evidence is direct but incomplete. Ground records contact, then loses the animal that made it. Daily behavior was probably shaped by temperature, light, water, and season. An animal might feed during cooler hours, rest when heat increased, and return to shelter or open ground as conditions changed. Migration, nesting, and food could alter these routines across the year. None of this would look dramatic from a distance. It would look like repeated movement between familiar places, interrupted by danger occasionally. Most successful days may have ended without a chase, a fight, or a wound. Injuries add another kind of evidence. Dinosaur bones preserve fractures, bites, infections, damaged joints, and unusual growth. Some injuries healed. This means the animal remained alive long enough for bone to repair itself. A healed leg fracture suggests that the dinosaur continued moving despite pain. Damaged rib may record a collision, fall, or attack. Bite marks on the skull can suggest conflict between members of the same species. Arthritis and worn joints show the effects of age. These fossils replace the image of perfect bodies with individuals that carried damage for months or years. Survival after injury raises questions that are difficult to answer. An animal may have recovered alone. A group may have reduced the danger around it. Food may have been easy to reach. The injury may have looked worse on bone than it felt in life. Researchers should not assume care without evidence, but they should not assume complete isolation either. A healed wound tells us that death did not come immediately. The rest of the recovery remains quiet. Disease also belonged to dinosaur life. Fossils preserve infections, tumors, abnormal bone growth, and damage caused by parasites or illness. Teeth wore down or broke. Joints became stiff. Old individuals lost speed. Young animals failed to reach adulthood. Hunger followed drought, failed hunts, migration, competition, or injury. A large body did not protect an animal from every weakness. Dinosaurs lived in environments filled with changing weather, limited food, accidents, and other animals trying to survive. They were not always in control of the landscape. Small dinosaurs could be eaten by larger predators. Eggs could be stolen. Young animals faced danger from many directions. Even the largest adults, eventually weakened, became injured or died. Their size and weapons helped them survive, but those features did not remove ordinary limits. Fossil record often presents the strongest bones and largest skeletons, which can make the animals appear more secure than they were. Life was never guaranteed by appearance. There is a quiet absurdity in treating every sharp tooth as proof of constant violence, while ignoring the long hours an animal probably spent standing still, searching for water, or simply recovering from the last meal. Still do something similar when a few dramatic seconds from an animal video become its entire public identity, even though most of its day passed without anything worth filming. We keep returning to the healed bones and worn joints because they make these creatures feel less like symbols and more like individuals that endured pain, age, hunger, and ordinary uncertainty. Dinosaurs were not permanent hunters or harmless background animals, but living creatures making practical choices within the limits of their bodies. Many of those choices vanished completely. while a few survived only because mud, pressure, and damage held them in place. The strange thing is that the record we trust most begins only after almost every ordinary life has already disappeared. Most dinosaurs that ever lived left no fossil behind. Flesh disappeared first. Insects, bacteria, weather, and scavengers removed. Bones cracked under heat, froze, broke apart, or were carried away. Roots pushed through them. Water rolled them downstream. Wind exposed them again after shallow burial. A dinosaur could live for many years, cross a landscape thousands of times, raise young, survive injuries, and finally vanish, without leaving one clear mark that people would ever find. Fossilization required a set of conditions. Death alone was not enough. The body usually needed to be covered before it was destroyed. Mud, sand, ash, or fine sediment could protect bones from sunlight, weather, and many scavengers. Burial also had to happen in a place where the remains would not be uncovered immediately. More sediment might collect above them. Minerals in water could enter spaces in the bone. Pressure and chemical changes could continue. Even after all of this, the rock containing the fossils still had to survive erosion, heat, movement, and deep burial before reaching the surface where someone could notice it. Rapid burial improved the chance of preservation because it shortened the time available for damage. A body left in the open could be pulled apart within days or weeks. Large scavengers might remove limbs. Smaller animals could chew bones. Flowing water could separate the skull from the spine and scatter the feet far from the rest of the skeleton. Sun and rain could weaken exposed surfaces. Once the bones came apart, they were easier to move and harder to identify as one animal. Flood, riverbank collapse, mudslide, dune, or fall of ash could cover the remains quickly enough to slow this process. Conditions still had to remain suitable. A body buried in loose sediment could later be uncovered by another flood. Groundwater could dissolve the bones instead of preserving them. Pressure could flatten the skeleton. Geological movement could break the rock. Heat deep underground could alter or destroy the fossil. Millions of years offered many chances for loss. The fossils in museums survived not one lucky moment, but a long series of dangers that continued after the animal was already buried. This makes the fossil record uneven from the beginning. Animals living near rivers, lakes, deltas, floodplains, and muddy shores often had better opportunities for burial. Sediment collected regularly in these places. Water could carry a dead animal into a low area and cover it. Floods could move sand and mud across a body in a short time. In contrast, an animal living on a dry upland might die on hard ground where its bones remained exposed. A forest animal could disappear beneath plants and decay in soil that preserved very little. Two species living in the same wider region could therefore leave very different numbers of fossils. The places with the most fossils were not always the places with the most life. They were often the places where sediment collected and later became accessible rock. A river channel might preserve many bones because it received bodies from a broad area. Some animals could have died nearby, while others were carried from far away. Their remains might gather in one deposit and create the appearance of a crowded community. Deposit records where bones were buried, not always where every animal spent its life. Soft-bodied creatures faced an even greater problem. Worms, insects, small animals, delicate plants, skin, internal organs, and many other parts usually disappeared without a trace. Even animals with skeletons lost most of their bodies. A dinosaur lived among countless organisms that helped form its environment. Yet many of them are missing from the rock. Fossil site can preserve large bones while leaving little evidence of the insects that fed there, the soft plants growing nearby, or the small animals moving through the soil. Ancient ecosystem then appears emptier and simpler than it truly was. Small dinosaurs were also easy to lose. Their bones were thinner, lighter, and more likely to break. Small skull could be crushed under sediment. Tiny vertebrae could be carried away by water. Scavengers might swallow or destroy the remains. Field workers could overlook fragments that were difficult to distinguish from ordinary stone. Erosion could remove a small skeleton before anyone reached it. Large bones are easier to notice, collect, and display, so the public picture can become dominated by giants, even when smaller species were common. Young dinosaurs may be especially underrepresented. Hatchlings had fragile bones and small bodies. Many probably died, yet their remains had little chance of lasting. A nesting ground might preserve eggshells without complete young skeletons. An adult bone could survive movement that destroyed a juvenile bone beside it. This can make a population appear older than it was. Researchers may find many mature animals and very few young ones, then have to decide whether the pattern reflects real survival, poor preservation, or both. Complete skeletons are rare because every joint begins to loosen after death. Skin and connective tissues once held the bones together. As those tissues decayed, the body became easier to scatter. A skull could roll away. Toes and tailbones could separate. Floodwater could move lighter pieces while leaving heavy limbs behind. Scavengers could drag sections in different directions. A skeleton found with many bones still connected usually indicates that burial happened before the body was fully disturbed. Such specimens attract attention because they are unusual, not because they represent the normal condition of dinosaur fossils. Many famous mounts are built from incomplete individuals. Missing bones can be replaced with casts, mirrored copies from the other side, or models based on related animals. Several specimens may help create one complete display. This allows visitors to understand the size and structure of the dinosaur, but the finished skeleton can hide how little was recovered from any single body. Clean museum mount removes the broken edges, empty spaces, and uncertainty that marked the original discovery. A beautiful fossil can also distort ideas about abundance. Some species lived in environments that preserved them well. Their bones may appear in many collections, leading people to imagine that they filled every landscape. Another species could have been equally common, but lived where remains decayed quickly. It may be known from one tooth or a few fragments. The number of fossils does not translate directly into the number of living animals. Preservation, exposure, collecting effort, and chance all stand between the ancient population and the modern museum. The same problem affects entire regions and periods. Some rock layers are exposed across wide areas and have been searched for generations. Others remain underground, beneath cities, forests, oceans, or younger rock. Political borders, difficult terrain, funding, and access influence where paleontologists can work. One region may appear rich in dinosaurs, partly because its rocks are visible and its fossils have been studied carefully. Another may seem empty because the useful layers are hidden or rarely explored. Absence from a collection can mean many things besides absence from the ancient world. Catastrophes sometimes produced unusually clear records. A flood could kill an animal, move its body, and bury it in one event. Mud could fill low ground and seal several bodies together. Sand might collapse around an animal trapped near water. Volcanic ash could cover a landscape quickly. These events were deadly, but they reduced the time in which remains could be scattered. A skeleton preserved in a life position may record the final minutes of an accident more clearly than it records the ordinary years before it. A mass death site can be even more misleading. Many bodies in one place may suggest that a species normally lived there in great numbers. The animals might instead have gathered around shrinking water, crossed the area during migration, or been carried together by a flood. Bones from different years can also become mixed in one layer. A deposit may collect remains gradually, then make them appear to belong to one moment. A rock can compress time as well as bodies. Paleontologists study these details through taphonomy, the examination of what happened between death and discovery. They look for bite marks, weathering, broken edges, mineral stains, current direction, burial position, and the arrangement of bones. A polished surface may indicate transport in water. Cracks can suggest long exposure before burial. Tooth marks reveal scavenging. Bones aligned in one direction may reflect a current. Fossil is therefore evidence of an animal and evidence of the events that altered its body. This means that event after death can dominate what the fossil tells us. Skeleton in river sediment tells us that water and burial played a role. It may tell us less about the dry ground where the animal fed. A group buried in mud may preserve one dangerous day while hiding thousands of ordinary days. The conditions that save the bones can dominate the story. Researchers must work backward through the damage before using the remains to describe the living ecosystem. The fossil record also favors hard features. Teeth, horns, thick limb bones, armor, and shells resist destruction better than soft tissues. The result can make ancient life look harder, larger, and more heavily armed than it was. Delicate species, soft coverings, and small body parts disappear more easily. Even within one animal, the strongest pieces may survive while the rest vanish. Collection of teeth can prove that a predator existed, but it cannot reveal how many individuals lived there or how often they hunted. Some fossils survive because disaster placed them in exactly the right conditions. Others disappear because an ordinary death occurred a few meters away on dry ground. Difference may have nothing to do with how common, important, or successful the animal was. One body becomes a fossil that scientists can study. Another is eaten, broken, dissolved, or scattered. The difference came from preservation conditions, not from how important or successful the animal was. There is something quietly unfair about calling one animal common because mud happened to cover its bones, while another can disappear from history after living in the same region for thousands of generations. Modern archives can lose whole years when a few files are damaged, and the fossil record has been exposed to floods, pressure, erosion, and chance for millions of years. I find the empty spaces as important as the beautiful skeletons, because every complete display stands among far more animals that left nothing we can recognize. Fossils preserve real pieces of the dinosaur world, but the pieces survived through conditions that removed almost everything else. Some missing information can be recovered because new methods can detect details that earlier researchers could not see. Inside familiar bones, researchers have begun finding evidence that was present all along but remained hidden. For much of the history of dinosaur research, a new discovery meant finding another bone. The bone was cleaned, measured, compared with other specimens, and placed in a drawer or display. Modern paleontology can now ask questions that earlier researchers could not approach. Fossil can now be scanned, sampled, enlarged, modeled, and tested in ways that reveal details hidden inside the rock. These methods do not complete the past, but they reduce some of the guessing. A familiar skeleton can therefore become useful new evidence later without being dug from the ground again. Computed tomography, usually called CT scanning, is one of the most useful tools. A scanner sends X-rays through a fossil from many directions. Computer combines them into thin digital slices. Researchers can examine the slices or build a three-dimensional model. This lets them look inside a skull, tooth, egg, or bone without cutting it open. Fossil material, rock, cracks, and internal spaces can appear differently. A structure hidden beneath the surface can be studied while the original fossil remains intact. A dinosaur skull may contain narrow passages that are impossible to see from the outside. CT data can reveal the shape of the inner ear, the path of nerves, the space once occupied by parts of the brain, and the channels that carried air through the head. The inner ear can help researchers discuss balance and head position. The brain case can suggest brain form, although it preserves no complete brain. Nasal passages can suggest how air moved and how certain crests may have affected sound. None of these answers appears clearly on the outer surface. The same method can separate fossil from rock inside a block that has not been fully prepared. A small bone may remain buried because removing the surrounding material would risk damage. Digital preparation can expose it on a screen before a tool touches the stone. Researchers can rotate the hidden object, measure it, and decide whether physical preparation is worth the danger. Digital models can also be shared with specialists in other places. One rare specimen can be examined widely without repeated transport and handling. CT scanning is powerful, but it does not answer every question. Minerals in the fossil and rock can be too similar for a clear image. Large bones may not fit inside a scanner. Metal supports and dense material can create unwanted marks in the data. Digital model also depends on how the scan is processed. Researchers still decide where one material ends and another begins. The machine collects information, but people still interpret it carefully. Better tools reduce uncertainty. They do not remove judgment. Some information requires a small physical sample. Paleohistology studies the microscopic structure of fossil bone. A researcher may remove a narrow piece from a limb bone, place it in resin, grind it until it becomes very thin, and examine it under a microscope. The sample can reveal layers of bone deposited during growth. Lines formed when growth slowed may help estimate age, although some early lines can be erased as the inner bone changes. Spacing between layers can also indicate whether growth was rapid, steady, or slowing near maturity. Bone tissue records more than age. Blood vessel spaces can suggest how quickly new bone formed. Dense repair can reveal injury or repeated stress. Areas of infection, unusual growth, or disease may become clearer under magnification. Broken bone that looks smooth from the outside can contain a long history of healing within it. Researchers compare several samples because one bone cannot represent every animal. Age, species, environment, and the position of the sample can all affect the result. This kind of work changed the old idea that dinosaurs simply grew slowly throughout life. Histology has helped researchers build growth curves for several species. Some dinosaurs grew quickly during a limited period, then slowed as they approached adult size. Others may have continued growing gradually for longer than expected. These patterns affect estimates of age, metabolism, and maturity. An adult skeleton is not only a measurement of final size. Its bone tissue may record how long the animal took to reach that size. Apex, a very complete Stegosaurus specimen now available for study at the American Museum of Natural History, offers an unusual opportunity. Much of its skeleton is preserved, and the individual appears to have reached an advanced age. Researchers have planned CT work on the skull and microscopic analysis of a sample from the thigh bone. Scans may reveal internal structures that are difficult to inspect from the outside. The bone sample may help build a growth history for Stegosaurus and provide information about how the animal changed as it aged. A nearly complete specimen lets separate parts be studied as one body. Measurements of the limbs can be compared with the spine, skull, plates, and tail. Signs of age or disease in one area can be considered beside changes elsewhere. Digital models may allow researchers to test posture and mass with fewer missing pieces. Apex will not answer every question about Stegosaurus, because one old individual cannot represent an entire species. It can still provide a stronger reference than a collection built from many incomplete animals. The study of ancient soft tissue has created even greater surprise. Fossils were once expected to preserve only mineralized hard parts after tens of millions of years. Researchers have since reported microscopic structures, flexible vessel-like material, and chemical evidence consistent with fragments of original proteins in some dinosaur bones. These findings have been questioned and debated because contamination and bacterial growth can imitate biological structures. Care is needed before any claim is accepted. The important change is not that dinosaur flesh has remained fresh. It has not. The discoveries concern altered remnants, microscopic structures, or chemical traces within fossil material. Iron, minerals, tight burial conditions, and chemical bonding may help explain how some components survive longer than expected. The possibility has encouraged scientists to examine ordinary fossils more carefully. A bone that looks completely mineralized on the outside may still contain tiny evidence of its earlier biology. Protein fragments can support comparisons with living animals, but they are incomplete and difficult to recover. Claims must be repeated and checked in independent laboratories. Samples can be damaged by excavation, contact, microbes, or preparation chemicals. Researchers therefore document where a sample came from and how it was handled. The excitement of a rare result does not remove the need for caution. In this field, the smallest trace can produce the largest argument. Birds and crocodilians remain essential as the closest living groups around dinosaurs. Their bodies help researchers estimate soft tissues that fossils rarely preserve. Muscle attachment scars on dinosaur bones can be compared with muscles in birds and crocodilians. Their lungs, air sacs, joints, feet, nesting behavior, and senses provide possible guides. Neither is a perfect copy of a non-bird dinosaur. The useful answer often lies between them, adjusted for the anatomy of the fossil species. Birds can help explain light skeletons, efficient breathing, feathers, balance, and rapid movement. Crocodilians can provide information about jaw muscles, skin, growth, nesting, and certain forms of communication. When both groups share a feature, researchers may consider whether their common ancestors also possessed something similar. When the groups differ, the fossil must carry more of the argument. Comparison cannot recreate behavior, but it limits the guesses. Computers allow these comparisons to be tested. A digital skull can be divided into sections and loaded with estimated muscle forces. A model can show where stress increases during a bite. Researchers can compare several jaw positions or test how changes in muscle size affect force. These results are not direct measurements from a living dinosaur. They depend on assumptions about tissue, movement, and body mass. Their value is making those assumptions visible and testable. Movement can be studied in a similar way. Digital skeletons can be placed around an estimated center of mass. Joints can be tested to see which poses are possible and which would force bones through one another. Models can estimate energy needed for walking or running. Footprints can then be used to check whether the predicted stride fits real tracks. A dramatic running pose may fail when balance, joint limits, and muscle force are considered together. Estimates of speed are especially uncertain. Body mass, leg length, muscle strength, ground and age matter. A computer can calculate a range, but it cannot recover one exact number for every individual. Researchers disagree because they use different estimates. This is still more useful than choosing a speed because it looks exciting. Careful range admits where the fossil stops speaking. Chemistry has opened other areas. Tiny pigment structures and chemical residues can support estimates of dark, reddish, or patterned coverings. Stable isotopes in teeth and bone can provide clues about water, temperature, migration, and habitat. Chemical wear and microscopic marks on teeth can help with diet. Material preserved in stomach regions or droppings can offer more direct evidence of food in rare cases. Each method answers a small question, and together they can change the larger picture. Footprints remain among the simplest fossils, yet modern analysis can make them highly informative. A sequence of prints can preserve direction, pace, foot position, and speed changes. Several trackways may record animals moving together, using the same route or crossing at different times. Pressure patterns can suggest how weight passed through the foot. Tracks sometimes correct skeleton-based ideas because they record a body while it was moving rather than after it had fallen apart. A new method does not merely decorate an old reconstruction. A scan can change the position of the head. A thin section can turn a supposed adult into a growing juvenile. A chemical test can replace plain skin with a patterned covering. A computer model can lower an estimated speed or alter the balance of the tail. One result can therefore require museums, books, films, and illustrations to rebuild the whole animal. There is a gentle irony in the fact that some fossils spent a century in drawers before a scanner revealed what the first researchers could never have seen. Modern technology moves quickly, yet its most valuable task here is often to examine old evidence more slowly and with less damage. I find these revisions satisfying because the dinosaur becomes clearer whenever a confident picture gives way to a result that can be measured, checked, and questioned. Science has corrected many old dinosaur images by returning to the evidence with better tools. Even the clearest construction remains temporary when a hidden structure, a chemical trace, or a line of footprints can change it. One last correction waits outside the museum, where a living animal carries the answer in plain sight. When people say dinosaurs became extinct, the sentence sounds complete. It suggests that one age ended and every dinosaur vanished. Museum halls support this feeling. Skeletons stand behind glass beside labels about animals from a distant past. Bones are still, and the creatures seem to belong entirely to another world. Yet the statement is only partly correct. The non-bird dinosaurs disappeared, but one branch continued. It survived in smaller forms, changed across millions of years, and remains around us today. Modern birds are not merely relatives of dinosaurs. They are living members of the dinosaur family. This feels strange because birds do not match the familiar image. A sparrow can sit on a windowsill. A chicken walks through a yard looking for seeds and insects. A penguin moves through cold water with short wings and a rounded body. None resembles the giant animals that fill cinema screens. Yet appearance does not erase ancestry. Dinosaurs were already highly varied before the Great Extinction. Some were enormous, while others were small, light, and feathered. The surviving line came from those smaller theropods, not from the largest plant eaters or the heaviest predators. About 66 million years ago, an asteroid struck Earth near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact and its wider effects changed climate, blocked sunlight, damaged food chains, and contributed to a mass extinction. The non-bird dinosaurs disappeared during this crisis. Many other groups also suffered heavy losses. Yet some early birds survived. Their exact advantages are still studied, but small body size, flexible diets, rapid reproduction, and access to certain foods may have helped some lineages endure conditions that destroyed larger and more specialized animals. Survivors did not preserve the old dinosaur world unchanged. They carried a narrow part of it into a new world. Over time, those surviving birds divided into many forms. Some became strong flyers, others lost flight and adapted to running, swimming, or living on islands. Their beaks changed with their diets. Their feet changed with the ground, branches, water, and prey they used. Their bodies became suited to forests, coasts, grasslands, deserts, mountains, and cities. Great diversity of birds today grew from a small surviving branch. A pigeon on a roof and an eagle above a valley may appear very different, but both remain inside the dinosaur line that passed through the extinction. The word dinosaur, therefore, includes more than animals known from rock. It includes sparrows, crows, chickens, eagles, ducks, owls, parrots, ostriches, and penguins. This does not mean that a sparrow is similar to every extinct dinosaur. A sparrow is not a small triceratops, and a penguin is not a reduced stegosaurus. It means that birds belong within one branch of theropod dinosaurs, just as humans belong within mammals without resembling every other mammal. Classification follows ancestry, not simple appearance. Once that ancestry is understood, the end of the dinosaur age becomes less complete than it first seemed. Many features of birds make more sense when placed beside theropod dinosaurs. Both walked on two legs. Many theropods had hollow bones and air spaces connected with an efficient breathing system. Their feet often carried three main forward-pointing toes. Their hips, shoulders, wrists, and necks reveal a long series of shared structures. Feathers appeared in dinosaurs before modern birds existed. Some theropods sat on nests, guarded eggs, and arranged their bodies in positions that resemble nesting birds. Connection does not depend on one convenient similarity. It comes from many parts of the skeleton and from fossils preserved across long periods. Archaeopteryx became one of the best-known fossils in this story. It lived about 150 million years ago, long before the final extinction. It had feathers and wings, but it also had teeth, clawed fingers, and a long bony tail. Its body contained a mixture of features that people once placed in separate groups. Early discoveries of Archaeopteryx helped demonstrate that bird-like and dinosaur-like traits could exist in one animal. More recent study of a well-preserved specimen has revealed detailed feathers and other structures that support its ability to fly, while also suggesting that it spent much of its time on the ground. Archaeopteryx was not a perfect halfway point between a typical ground dinosaur and a modern bird. Evolution does not produce one straight row in which every animal becomes the next. Many feathered dinosaurs and early birds lived at different times and developed different combinations of features. Some had long tails. Some had short tails. Some had teeth, while others lost them. Some could fly well, some may have glided, and others remained on the ground. Fossils from China and other regions have revealed small theropods with feathers on the arms, legs, tails, and bodies. Together, these finds make the connection broader than one famous fossil. A living chicken offers an especially useful comparison, because its ordinary behavior is easy to observe. It scratches the ground with strong feet, turns its head quickly, and watches movement with care. It settles over eggs and communicates with short calls. Its feathers cover a body supported by a lightweight skeleton. When alarmed, it can move with sudden speed. None of this makes a chicken identical to a small, extinct theropod, but the family connection is closer than the connection between a dinosaur and a modern lizard. The lizard-like image remained popular because early dinosaurs were reconstructed mainly as large reptiles. The bird connection became stronger as feathers and shared anatomy accumulated. Connection also changes how feathers are understood. Feathers were once treated as the feature that clearly separated birds from dinosaurs. Fossils now demonstrate that many non-bird dinosaurs carried feathers or simpler feather-like coverings. Flight was not their only purpose. Feathers could provide warmth, display color, protect eggs, or help individuals recognize one another. The structures later used in flight had an earlier history on the bodies of animals that did not fly. Modern birds, therefore, carry a feature that developed gradually within dinosaurs, rather than receiving something entirely new after dinosaurs ended. Bird breathing also preserves an important part of that history. Modern birds use lungs connected with air sacs that keep air moving efficiently. Evidence of air spaces in many theropod bones suggests that related respiratory structures existed deep within the dinosaur line. Hollow or air-filled bones did not simply make an animal delicate. They reduced weight while maintaining useful strength. The same broad system that helped large dinosaurs manage their bodies also supported the light frames of flying birds. Feature hidden inside fossil bones remains active inside living animals. Even the way birds move can make an old reconstruction look different. A bird holds its body above the hips, with the head and chest forward and the tail region behind. Many theropod dinosaurs balanced in a comparable horizontal way. The old image of an upright dinosaur dragging its tail became difficult to maintain once balance, joints, and trackways were studied more carefully. Watching a ground bird run can make the corrected posture easier to understand. The movement is not a copy of Tyrannosaurus, but it provides a living example of a body held in a related arrangement. Dinosaur family did not continue because one species remained unchanged for 66 million years. It continued because living groups change. Bodies became smaller or larger. Wings strengthened, weakened, or became useful for swimming. Beaks replaced toothed jaws in surviving bird lines. Tails shortened as the final vertebrae joined into a compact structure that supported feathers. New diets, habitats, and behaviors appeared. The result was not a hidden T-Rex inside every bird. It was a long history of descent in which old structures were altered for new conditions. This also explains why extinction can be both real and incomplete. Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Velociraptor, and Tyrannosaurus are gone. Their individual branches ended. No modern bird is one of those animals in a smaller body. Yet the larger dinosaur group did not lose every branch. One survived and expanded. The event at the end of the Cretaceous removed most of the old variety, but it did not erase the entire family. Birds are the only living dinosaurs, and their survival changes the meaning of the word extinct when it is applied too broadly. Museums can unintentionally hide this continuity. Dinosaur halls often stand apart from bird galleries. One room contains stone bones, while another contains feathers, nests, and preserved modern species. Separation is useful for organizing collections, but it can make the groups feel unrelated. Visitors leave the dinosaur hall believing they have seen a finished world. Outside the building, pigeons gather near steps, crows search bins, and small birds cross the sky. The living branch may be closer to the visitor than the skeleton behind the glass. A chicken in a yard may therefore be closer to the dinosaurs than any modern lizard. This does not come from behavior alone or from a simple claim that chickens look fierce. It comes from shared ancestry supported by skeletons, feathers, eggs, nests, breathing structures, and many small anatomical details. Lizards are reptiles too, but they belong to a different branch that separated much earlier. The old picture of dinosaurs as oversized lizards placed attention on surface appearance. The bird connection depends on a deeper record of descent. Once this is accepted, the world outside becomes part of the dinosaur story. A sparrow landing on a railing carries a lightweight skeleton, feathers, air sacs, and two-legged balance from a very old line. A crow calling from a roof uses a body produced by changes that began long before humans existed. A penguin entering the sea demonstrates how far that line could move from flight while keeping feathers and bird anatomy. An eagle crossing open sky carries claws, sharp senses, and controlled movement that developed through countless earlier forms. The final misunderstanding came from searching only for giants. People expected dinosaurs to survive if they survived at all, as large reptiles hidden in forests or remote valleys. The real survival was smaller, more common, and visible every day. It did not preserve the heavy bodies that made dinosaurs famous. It preserved one adaptable branch and allowed it to become thousands of species. The animals outside the window are not reminders that resemble dinosaurs from a distance. They are the remaining dinosaurs themselves. The past did not stay inside the rock. One part of it continued eating, nesting, calling, flying, running, swimming, and living beside us. Great skeletons remain silent in museums, but their wider family has never become silent. It is present in the scrape of feet on soil, the movement of wings above buildings, and the small shadows crossing the ground when birds pass overhead. Looking back across these 100 facts, the most useful thing may be how often a confident picture changed when better evidence appeared. Dinosaurs were once drawn as heavy lizards, placed beside animals that lived millions of years away, given exposed teeth, loud roars, simple colors, and behavior designed for excitement. Later fossils added feathers, different postures, new ages, healed injuries, changing names, hidden airspaces, and signs of ordinary daily life. None of those corrections made the old researchers worthless, and none made the newer pictures perfect. Each correction simply brought the animals a little closer to what the evidence could support. That is worth remembering beyond dinosaurs. A familiar idea can feel certain because it has been repeated for years, printed in books, placed in museums, or shown on screens. Still, familiarity and accuracy are not always the same thing. Careful questions do not weaken knowledge. They help remove the parts that were added too quickly. Past remains incomplete, but an incomplete answer can still be useful when its limits are treated honestly. These animals also become easier to understand when they are allowed to be animals rather than symbols. They rested, searched for food, protected themselves, suffered injuries, grew old, and sometimes survived events that left marks in their bones. Most disappeared without leaving any trace at all. The few that reached museums should remind us not only of what was preserved, but also of how much was lost. And when a bird crosses the sky, lands on a roof, or calls outside a window, the story does not feel entirely buried. A living branch still carries parts of that ancient history through the present day. Thank you for spending this quiet time with me and for staying through the full journey. I hope the slow facts have given your mind something gentle to hold while the rest of the day begins to fade. Do not need to remember every name, date, or discovery. Let the details settle where they will, and let the room grow quiet around you. Thank you for watching. Take care, goodbye for now, and good night.